welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, consider subscribing as it helps out the channel, and give this video a like if you do like it. Joining me for this video is my fellow Martian, Manny Cruz. Say hi.
Greetings, Earthling. I'm going to blow up your planet.
This is Haredevil Hare, released on the 24th of July 1948. It's the 529th in the series, and it's directed by Chuck Jones. Now, you can find this on the Looney Tunes Gold Collection Volume 1 DVD set, the Looney Tunes Platinum Collection Volume 1 Blu-ray set, the Bugs Bunny 80th set, and on HBO Max. So literally nowhere to be found. It's a very rare cartoon indeed. So
it's lost media.
Lost media, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
As an added bonus, I've also got my good friend Jonathan Graves, who's behind the wonderful podcast This Means Podcast, which is a podcast dedicated to Looney Tunes. And later on, I'll put his thoughts in the review, but say hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Anthony. This is Jonathan Graves with This Means Podcast. I just wanted to thank you again for inviting me on to discuss some Looney Tunes shorts, and this one is especially personal to me, and I love it so much. But I will be discussing Haredevil Hare.
In case you're one of the few people who have not seen this cartoon, here's just a brief synopsis. So, Bugs Bunny is forced against his will to go into a rocket ship to the moon. There, he encounters Marvin the Martian, who, of course, he wants to blow up the Earth with his uranium Pu-36 explosive space modulator. Beautiful. I gotta love that. So, a few bits of trivia for this one, and this is a very important cartoon. I mean, first up, well, yeah, first appearance of Marvin the Martian in the series. I mean, it took him long enough, right? So,
Yep.
Here he looks slightly different, you know, think of it as Season 1 Simpsons, really, and there's my Simpsons reference for the day, but it's in that sort of context. And the voice is different, again, like in the Simpsons Season 1 with Homer.
Did you say you was going to blow up the Earth? Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, that's what I thought you said.
But what's interesting is that the character right away is spot on, especially when compared to his other appearances, right down to using the, and I'll say it again, uranium Pu-36 explosive space modulator. It's also the first appearance of K9, and it's the voice that Manny likes to do when he orders a coffee or if someone tries to take a coffee away from him.
I guess I shot him. I guess he won't try to get away with anything with me again. I guess hey!
Give me my coffee over here, please. See, I first off, I got to apologize for that horrible Marvin the Martian impression I did earlier in the review, because I actually prefer Marvin's voice in this cartoon as opposed to the one that he's more famous for. And yes, Smell Blank doing both times, but I kind of like this one. But I have difficulty trying to replicate it. But you know, I'm not a professional. I'm just some guy on YouTube trying to sound like a cartoon character. Anyway, I digress. Go ahead, sir.
Of course. What is interesting as well, and this is just as important but may not be as apparent, this is not the first short where Chuck Jones worked with Malcolm Maltese solo, but this would mark the beginning of the Jones-Maltese team, working together as a duo to create some of the most memorable cartoons of all time. When you think Chuck Jones, usually people would point to cartoons of this time, starting with this cartoon. And that's not to say his cartoons before this one were terrible by any means, but this is just what the general public would regard as Chuck Jones, really. So there's that. And there's one reference that most people probably won't get today, and the whole, Kilroy was here. And that just refers to the graffiti that were used by the GIs in World War II that were found in many areas all over Europe. It was sort of topical because of the fact the war was only a few years over by this point. I mean, this is 1948 we're talking about here, and the war finished in 45. So it'd be still fresh in people's minds. So that's where that reference comes from. But, you know, I love IMDb, and somebody pointed out that this person was supposed to be Richard Nixon when he was a senator in California at the time, and I'm thinking, I don't think so. I don't think so. I have my doubts. Look, let me know in the comments what you think, but I'm 99.9% sure it's not him. If I'm wrong, well, may a cartoon character strike me down with a mallet. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But what I can tell you is that those newspaper clippings that were used in the beginning were from the newspapers around the time. They weren't actually made for the cartoon. I can't tell you where they came from specifically, but yeah, that would have been the quick and easy way to just put it in there and see you later. So some nice trivia to start it off. So I just want to put this cartoon also into context for people before we get into discussion, because this is 1948, so the space war had not begun yet between the US and Russia. Russia, of course, would have the first person in space, and then a decade later, the man would finally walk on the moon. Yes, it happened. If you're a conspiracy theorist, no, they did indeed walk on the moon. So, shush. So this cartoon, more or less, is the fantasy version of traveling to space. Of course, there's no air on the moon. There's, of course, rockets don't get propelled by a single stick of dynamite, which I thought was an excellent touch there. But it's what Michael Barry called in his audio commentary, which I encourage you guys to listen to, by the way. It's a realistic fantasy where, okay, none of this would work the way it's presented, but it's done in a way that you can believe it. It's believability. It's similar to the movie Up, which I'm not going to show here because I don't want Disney pinging me all of a sudden. But if you've seen the film, you know it's about a house. It's more than a house. But anyway, there's balloons, and the balloons lift the house off the ground. If you think about it too hard, it probably wouldn't happen. But you're made to believe it could happen based on what the movie tells you. Similar thing here. So, Manny, what are your thoughts on this wonderful cartoon?
I've seen this one quite a bunch of times as a kid on various Turner networks, and this is actually something that I'm surprised you didn't bring up. But you mentioned this is the first Marvin Martian cartoon, but this is also the final cartoon in the Associated Artists Productions package.
Ooh.
And I remember back many eons ago in the 90s. Well, I always try to explain to, the non-hardcore Looney Tune fans, and then I explain to people who either didn't remember or who are not young enough to remember that, like, oh, if I wanted to watch these cartoons like Black and White Porkies from the 30s and 40s, or the Patty Freeling or Seven Arts shorts, I saw them on Nickelodeon. I saw a lot of the cartoons from the 50s and early 60s on Channel 7 here in New York City, ABC. But this cartoon, I used to see them on channels like TBS and TNT here in the United States and on the Turner networks. I have an affinity for the cartoons that are in the AAP package. For those of you that are not aware, those are the cartoons that Warner Brothers sold off to Associated Artists Productions in 1956. They sold off approximately 330 cartoons, mainly color, Merry Melodies, and Looney Tunes, and the majority of the harmonizing Merry Melodies, with the exception of Lady Play Your Mandolin. And this cartoon, like I said, was the final one of that set. We did a commentary not that long ago about Hot Cross Bunny, and Hot Cross Bunny is actually the first cartoon of the Warner package. So these are the cartoons, aka the post-1948 library that was shown on, like, the Bugs Bunny show and things of that nature. Like I said, I have an affinity for this package. I used to see this cartoon a lot growing up, and I've always really enjoyed it. Now, here is a controversial take. I am not a big fan of Marvin the Martian, the character. He's not a bad character, not at all. He's very funny, especially in this cartoon. I know. I'm waiting for the
My monocle is dropped in my glass of champagne right now. Yes, because I'm so shocked.
And it could be because, again, since I'm a child of the 90s, that the oversaturation of Marvin Martian in merchandise, because everywhere you went, and still to this day to an extent, you always saw Marvin, you always saw Tweety, you always saw Taz. And then as I got older, and I started learning about yeah, well, those are mainly like truckers that have them on there.
Yep.
The flaps in the back of the tires. And like, as I got older, I'm like, wait, Marvin was only in 5 cartoons? Taz was only in 5 cartoons? Like, why are you making such a big deal out of a character that's not even like that prominent? But I understand the reasons why, casual fans are appealing to him. I personally feel that Marvin, along with Taz, is overrated. Daffy, yeah. Sylvester, yeah. I'm biased. Porky's my favorite, and he was in a ton of shorts, but I know that he was a bit bland. But I don't know. That's just my little controversial hot take.
So now, while Manny screams in the bag over his absolute hatred of 90s Looney Tunes merchandise, here's Jonathan Graves with his thoughts on Haredevil Hare.
This is a 1948 Chuck Jones short starring the first appearance of Marvin the Martian, not named at this point in time, and his trusty sidekick K9, who come against Bugs Bunny, who has been sent to the moon because he was, I guess, inducted into a program. You know, it was just Bugs Bunny being tempted by a bunch of carrots into a rocket, and then he follows along. He goes through some of the best animated emotion that we have ever seen the character go through, whether it's displaying terror or frustration of, you know, the whole program and like being reluctant to do this. And then, you know, it turns the tables on it, and then he's very eager to protect Earth from blowing up, while Marvin has, you know, the PU-36 explosive space modulator ready to go on his little ship, and he's going to blow up the Earth because it blocks his view of Saturn. And I really enjoy the animation here. I love how Ben Washam just brilliantly brought Bugs to life, and especially with the post-crash jitters that he displays here, it's really fun to watch. It's a really quick, nuanced 7 minutes. It's a 7-minute and 42-second short, and it eats up every second of that runtime with jokes, laughs, beautiful visuals, and just classic animation. And we also just have one of our favorite pairings come together for the first time ever, Bugs Bunny and Marvin the Martian. What's not to love there? And there's also a really fun meme, like the start of the meme is displayed here. There's a rock that says Kilroy was here. This is a meme from the World War II era, and usually it was seen in graffiti, and it has been like carved into a rock on the moon, just as Bugs says, "Oh, the first person on the moon," and it says Kilroy was here. It's really funny to have such a wonderful character be thrown into a world that is so off-brand for him, and for him to have to find his footing again. It's just so much fun. Mel Blanc does an incredible job as Bugs Bunny here, and we even get one of his classic yells where it's just Mel yelling, and he says whenever they're dangling off the side of the moon after it's been blasted by the PU-36 explosive space modulator, which Bugs was able to get away from Marvin and explode the moon with.
Over.
Have you prepared a statement for the press?
Well, yes, I have prepared a statement. Get me out of here!
It's just a really fun way to end it. I can't get enough of Marvin here. They do one of the things I love most about Looney Tunes, and it's that there's so much character that's thrown into these first appearances. And it's, you know, very true with Marvin here. We have his iconic look already, you know, set. He's wearing like the little saucer skirt thing, and obviously the Nero helmet, and it's just perfection. I love this short. I think Chuck Jones did a brilliant job bringing it to life, and Michael Maltese again writing a very good script that they had to work off of. And Carl Starling, of course, creating the iconic sound of whenever Marvin walks in that little scurrying way. It's fantastic. It's classic Looney Tunes in the best way, and this one is definitely top tier for me. I love a lot of the jokes here. I don't think every one of them lands, but most of them are laugh out loud funny. And whenever you're throwing a joke a minute, like, or a joke a second, really, that's what you want. And they really are throwing everything at the screen here. I wanted to give a shout out to Ken Harris, who also provided some animation work on here. And go watch this short if you haven't in a while. I'm sure Anthony will tell you where to find it. And I definitely know it's on HBO Max right now. And I recently watched it, and I'm watching it right now, and it's just glorious in its design. And yeah, couldn't recommend this one enough. It's seminal if you're talking about great Looney Tunes shorts, and especially from the 1940s to 1950s era. This you couldn't go better than this with the sci-fi epic kind of thing. And while America and the world were so fascinated with traveling to the moon, I thought that was a ripe story to put Bugs in and really explore the comedy that could come from that. So I highly recommend this short, and I love everything about it. I even have a Mondo poster of this specific one on my desk. So I'm a big fan, and I've always loved Marvin the Martian going up against Bugs Bunny. It doesn't get any better than that. So yeah, 10 out of 10, everything for me. This is this is amazing. I, on my podcast, give it a carrot rating if I'm reviewing a short, and I would say this is definitely 5 out of 5 carrots. So yeah, highly recommend this one. And just, if you want more Looney Tunes content from me, you can check out the podcast over at This Means Pod or This Means Podcast on social media, and This Means Podcast on all podcast platforms. So check me out. Have a great day. And thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate it. And thank you again for letting me be a part of your 200th video. That was really fun to do. So congratulations again on all of these. Take care.
And thank you, Jonathan, for your wonderful insights on this cartoon and your wonderful podcast too, which, as I said, I highly recommend you guys sign up to if you haven't already. But I think Manny's back from screaming in that paper bag.
Sorry. But going back to the cartoon itself, a lot of great gags. Like I said, I love the performances of Mel Blanc, especially of K9. Not a lot of music in this one that caught out to me, although I didn't know until today when you see the introduction of K9. The dun 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 dun. I always loved that little musical thing, and I thought it was an original Stalling composition, but it's actually Raymond Scott, Boy Scout in Switzerland's the name of the piece. And just some of the comments that Bugs Bunny makes in this one just really cracked me up. You know, I have kids, millions of them. I laughed out loud when I heard that one.
Yes.
The fly, stop! I got a wife and kids, millions of kids.
Flying cigar remark that he made about the spaceship, and I love the takes that the fits that Bugs Bunny was making as he landed on the moon. And I love the line, here's a fugitive from the Dog Star. Great, line delivery from Mel Blanc. And just that whole, another example of reverse psychology between K9 and Bugs was great.
Well, what are you made up for? Catch the fugitive from the Dog Star. Hey, what's the big idea? Give me that.
Oh, no, I won't.
Oh, yes, you will.
Oh, no, I won't.
Oh, yes, you will.
Oh, no, I won't.
Oh, no, you won't.
Oh, yes, I will.
Oh, no, you won't.
Yes, I will.
Oh, no, you won't.
You take her or I'll shove it down your throat.
Okay, you big bully. I'll take it this time. If you're going to be nasty.
And something that I noticed before, the scene where Bugs is communicating to Earth, and then you hear the commercial jingle, and then when Bugs and the dog are arguing with each other, and I'm like, even when I was a kid, I noticed, why did this scene look so different? But I always noticed that scene always stood out to me in a good way. Just like it was different, but it looked appealing. And based on the little knowledge I have of, identifying animators, I wish I had the brain like Austin Kelly does. But I was like, I think that's Pete Burness. And I messaged it, and Austin was like, yeah, you're right. Good job. And I gave myself a metaphorical gold star for the day. And I'm learning. And I just felt a Simpsons reference.
It's a good job because I will link below an article from Devin Baxter, who confirms that indeed, Pete Burness, his first Warner Brothers short was in this cartoon. So definitely confirmed.
That I did not, because I know he did a few shorts, but I didn't know that this was his first one.
Just a few things I wanted to point out as well. I mean, we hear Wagner as the rocket leaves the Earth, and of course that's Chuck just loves Wagner, doesn't he? He just likes to use that in all of his shorts. I like the Martian theme. and I actually asked you beforehand, is this from an actual song? But no, as you say, it appears to be a Starling original, or at least.
And I should have digged into what exactly, like what instruments were being used whenever Marvin Martian's walking. I love that little that just said. Now that you're mentioning Wagner, it drives me insane. And I was telling you this prior to the recording. At the very end of the cartoon, when Bugs is communicating with Earth after the moon explodes, and that Wagner clip, that little excerpt from Wagner, it's driving me nuts. I'm like, what opera is this from? And I can't remember it. And I even went to Russian Rhapsody, and I was listening to the beginning of that cartoon that uses the same excerpt, and I was trying to find online. So anybody in the comments, if you could just help me out and tell me specifically what Wagner opera that little excerpt's from. I'm thinking it's The Flying Dutchman, but I'm probably wrong. But please help me out.
Sure.
Much love and appreciation.
Yeah.
Or else I will blow up the earth.
That's right. And one of my favorite lines of the short is,
Gee, kid, I didn't know you cared. No, don't leave. There's a beautiful Earth out tonight.
I thought that was a lovely little touch there. And of course, if you guys know the origin of the commercial, the radio commercial that you hear in this short, that was the one thing I couldn't quite figure out. Yeah, definitely let me know as well. So there's your homework, everyone.
Look at that. You watch a video, you get homework.
That's right. But just to slowly wrap things up, in terms of rating, I give this one a solid 8 out of 10. It marks the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I mean, yes, as I mentioned before, this is not the first time where Chuck has worked with Michael Maltese solo, but this is the time where we start getting those Chuck Jones shorts that just about everyone knows. Everyone. You show a picture of Bugs Bunny, it's most likely this Bugs Bunny. So, and the cartoon's solid. I mean, it's not my favorite Marvin the Martian, but look, K9 is the best. That's all I'm going to say. I just love that. I just love stupid voices. So that's why this is like 8 out of 10. Gags are solid. And I forgot to point this out, I love how, in a stark contrast to the earlier days of Chuck Jones, where it took forever for him to set things up, here, bang, right into the action. First shot, Bugs Bunny being dragged against his will into the rocket. Like,
yeah,
what a difference from the start. So yeah, 8 out of 10. How would you rate this one?
I was going back and forth as to what to rate it. I used to see this one a lot as a kid. I always enjoyed it, despite my, not dislike, but like my mehness to Marvin Martian, but a lot of great gags, a lot of great animation, really funny. It was a pleasure to rewatch this one, especially in beautiful high definition, and because it's important historically for multiple reasons. I'll give it 8.5. Definitely one of the best shorts the studio ever made. Great introduction to Marvin. Very important short, and still holds up after all these years.
Yeah, it's one of the classics, and we got to be careful as we move towards some of these really well-known shorts like What's Opera Doc, One Froggy Evening, that sort of thing that we've all seen a million times. We got to be careful and judge the cartoon on its merit versus this again, that kind of way. We've got to be very careful with that, because I will maintain I'm going to try not to downvote anything just because I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, that'll wrap this one up, this extra long review, because it's, again, an important cartoon. So thank you so much, guys, for listening, and until next time, take care.
Listen to this review or shove it down your throat.
Well, yes, I have prepared a statement. Get me out of